Right. Looks like the rest of the week is just going to be high seas because there is a lot of information that has dropped and it's wondrous. So we're gonna start with the cards and then we'll probably do the product page because there is a lot to go over there in a different one. But we'll start off just reading through the cards and then we'll discuss. Right. So Puff and Hightail, action, do something, destroy a gold you control, create a golden cog token. The second time you crank each turn, draw a card. So already the flexibility of this ability is really nice to me because we do now know that golden cogs do have crank, meaning that what you could technically do is use the ability, right? Again, depending on what this symbol means and it's acting as the main limiting factor, set up a golden cog and then end your turn by setting up another golden cog. If you need to then crank to be able to arsenal card, you can. Otherwise, you could just leave with two golden cogs on board, one with a steam counter, one with not, to then utilize with other cards such as Golden Skywarden. But it very much seems like once you get the ball rolling in terms of converting the gold to golden cogs, you'll have an easy enough way to convert them back and forth, which is definitely exciting, right? Because again, LSS wants your abilities to be usable. So yeah, pretty insane. Even just the second time you crank draw a card is pretty nuts. Golden Sky Warden. So Galvanize, when this defends, you may destroy an item you control. If you do, this gets +1 block. If a golden cog is destroyed this way, create a gold token and repeat this process. So again, being able to float those golden cogs and then convert them back to gold straight away through cards like Golden Sky Warden or anything. If it has this stylization of Galvanize, or we might see, an attack variant of it, to then get the gold back, to then just puff in to set up that crank and get to the 2 cranks. Nice and easy. Sky Simmer as just our 3 common cards, but these are very, very nice flexible cards. So red, 0 for 4, yellow, 0 for 3, blue, 0 for 2, all 3 blocks, and then they all have a once per turn instant. Do something to a cog you control. This gets +1 or go again. So either you get the nice stat line of 0 for 4 with go again, or even a 0 for 3 with go again, or it's your closer and you just pump it, right? So yeah, definitely nice, definitely makes up for boost. So I'm guessing they're going to take Puffin in a completely new direction and sort of get an edge away from boost. Problem for me, it doesn't really synergize that well with other mechanologists unless everyone has access to golden cogs. Although worth noting, it's a cog you control, not a golden cog you control. So there are going to be more cogs, so maybe there'll be a nice set that Data Doll just throws out and then gets really great use out of Sky Simmer as just a nice big attack. But again, 3 block is also just really, really good. Golden Cog, again, has crank, enters with 1 steam counter. So the majority of them are just going to hang around for your turn and your opponent's turn. But again, it does seem like you're going to get pretty good use out of them regardless. Gravy Bones, Shipwreck Looter, instant, do something, destroy a gold you control, draw a card, then discard a card. If a blue card has been put into your graveyard this turn, you may play cards with Watery Grave from your graveyard. And weirdly, right, although there are a lot of changes, apparently, with this set, Watery Grave is not in bold, which is usually what we see for keywords, but if we look over here to Chum, we do have Watery Grave, and it is actually a keyword, right? So, yeah, curious choice. Compass of Sunken Depths, instant, do something. Look at the top card of your deck. The first card with Watery Grave you play from your graveyard each turn gets go again. Again, right, go again, Bolden, but Watery Grave isn't. So maybe there's going to be multiple ways to have Watery Grave. It's not just going to be a keyword. We'll have to see. But yeah, so this is obviously one of your weapons. I assume it's going to be a Cutlass, maybe, as Gravy Bone's main weapon. But still, just the first card with Watery Grave you play from your graveyard each turn gets go again is going to be really nice to help set them up because, again, looking at Chum, doesn't have go again, so playing him, putting him on board, he needs that go again proc, right? And then he also kind of needs the go again to swing, but because you're not playing him from your graveyard, you don't get it through Compass. Chart the high seas, look at the top 2 cards of your deck. You may pitch a blue card from among them, put the rest into your graveyard. Create a gold token for each yellow card put into your graveyard this way. So it wasn't blue, so it does have some interesting flexibility, right? Because either you get to pitch a blue and float the resources, which is just like pitching chart seas with upside, right? Or you find a yellow, you get gold, right? You find 2 yellows, you get 2 gold, which I think is still going to make you pretty happy, right? Or you find 2 blues and you put a blue into the graveyard and then you activate Gravy Bones' ability. So yeah, it's definitely going to be a staple, it seems, currently, right? Unless there's just grossly other cards that you really want as well, right? In red. And then we have Chum, Friendly First Mate, our first look at our Pirate Necromancer ally. So their actions, you put them into play, and then they are very strongly statted, it seems. I was not expecting such a high health threshold, right? Because he's a pretty big sponge that could then still swing for 4. So action, do something, attack, or instant, do something. Discard a card with Watery Grave until the end of turn. Opponents must choose this as targets of attacks if able. So he has Taunt, right? Which is definitely a cool effect. So set him up and Taunt, protect your other allies, protect something a bit more powerful, something that, you probably want to do whatever the symbol is to then pump your other cards like Board the Ship, Paddle Faster, or Hoist them up. So yeah, again, we're just seeing really, really good flexibility across all the cards, which means that even if they're just average to slightly better stats, the flexibility puts them a little bit higher, right? So far the card quality is definitely heading upwards, right? Which is a little bit scary, but, the power level of the last few sets has definitely still been a bit high, so makes sense. Board the Ship. When this attacks, you may something to an ally that you control. If you do, this gets overpower, so 2 for 6 with potential overpower. Again, 3 block is definitely nice. Paddle Faster, 0 for 4. That can have go again. Again, if you do something to an ally, definitely nice. And then Hoist them up. Already a 4 block that you could pump to 5. Supremely nice, right? So, yeah. Again, card quality. Then we have Marlynn. Yes, I'll say it for once, but I'm going to call her Marlynn because, again, all the art is fantastic. I'm not too big on the puns. Yeah. So, Treasure Hunter, action, do something, destroy gold you control, create a goldfin harpoon in your hand, go again. Whenever you draw a card during your action phase, you may put an arrow from your hand face up into your arsenal. So you do want to be drawing because you're putting the harpoons in your hand so you don't just get infinite arrows with a go again ability, right? Which is definitely warranted. King, Shark, Harpoon, 2 cost, 6 power, right? So again, average stat line, 3 block, and then a new keyword, Go Fish. When this hits a hero, they choose and reveal a card from their hand. If it's an attack action card, they discard it and you create a gold token. If you've activated a cannon this turn, instead look at their hand and you choose the card. So I'm going to assume that a cannon is going to be her weapon, right? That makes most sense to me where it should go on the board, right? So it still needs the bow tagline, or they need to work around that, right? Because, well, no, yeah, arrow just carries the whole effect, right? Where you have to have a bow equipped. So yeah, that's going to be interesting. But other than that, where else could the cannon be? I guess arms, and she just has support, or maybe you set the cannons up as landmarks, maybe. Yeah, it's scary because that effect is definitely nice, right? The discard, create a gold, and then just 2 for 6. Big game trophy shot. Now, this is not directly goldfin harpoons, it's any harpoon. So the next arrow attack this turn gets +4. So 2 for 4 is not as nice as I'd like, right? But again, the totality of this card definitely makes up for the slightly higher cost, right? 3 blocks still, and then if it's a harpoon, it gets, when this hits, create a gold token. So you can buff your goldfin harpoons, you can buff your king shark harpoons, you can buff any harpoons that Marlynn gets. And then we also get the draw card, then discard a card, meaning you can also load a harpoon straight away, right? Which is definitely nice. Go again, but again, the cost factor is a little bit awkward, right? So this is the first card that's a little bit more in check, but still, again, really, really functionally nice. And then, of course, we have our Goldfin Harpoon, which is a 0 for 2, right? I was expecting a 0 for 1, but 0 for 2, still decent. So pumping this to a 0 for 6, I guess makes up for the discard and the cost, right? Obviously, you still need to get Marlynn's ability off to generate the Harpoon, but, pumping a King Shark Harpoon to a 10, right? And then that's just your turn. I think it's still pretty disgusting. Yeah, it's looking pretty nice. And then we have gold, still just gold, and our treasure island. So, first time a hero is attacked each turn, put a gold counter on this, right? And then whenever you or an ally you control deals damage to an opposing hero, you may remove that many gold counters from this and then create gold tokens equal to the number of counters removed this way. Pretty sure this is one of, right, the only cards that I got absolutely correct. All the rest definitely misplaced a word or two. But yeah, the effect is definitely really, really strong. So the fact that it's on attack rather than on dealing damage and every turn. So again, you attack your opponent, you get a counter. They attack you, you get a counter. And then you deal some damage. and you get to remove that many counters. Once you get it stacked up enough, you'll really just start raking in the gold, and that will probably just be enough to fuel your abilities for the foreseeable time, right? So yeah, this macro, I'm very curious how it gets into play, right? Because starting with this on board seems absolutely insane because there's no destroy clause to it, right? So I assume we have to play something to get on board. But yeah, I'm for a whole string of landmarks. This is definitely insanely strong, right? We also have, I might as well point it out now. No, interestingly, this still is a token, but it's a B, right? Because token has been changed to basic as interesting choice. I'm guessing because they want to, do more token typing rather than token rarity. So they've changed token rarity to basic rarity, which makes sense, right? Okay, now the mysterious symbol. What could it mean? Well, again, we have a few different cards to look at and try to infer. It's still pretty much game to be, sink, tap, destroy, discard, banish, maybe even, right? I think banish makes the most sense when we look at like the allies, but again, we got to look at who you're targeting each time you use this little symbol. So on all the heroes, you're targeting yourself, most likely, again, if it's something that you directly do to a card, because again, it's not stated, whereas on the hoist them up, right, it's specifically targeting an ally, or on Sky Simmer, it's specifically targeting a cog. So if it was sink a cog, because they are token / basic, they just get destroyed. So that's not too horrible, but again, we have other cards with the wording revolving around destroy, so I don't see why, if it was just synonymous with destroy, why not? It would just replace destroy everywhere, right? Like this would be destroy something and then destroy a gold token, right, with the symbol. So I don't think it's destroy. Now, again, sync works too. So sync makes it synonymous with destroy when interacting with golden cogs. But for other cards, it's a little bit worse. So the allies being sunk into your deck rather than going to your graveyard definitely makes them less overpowered. So sink a card in terms of targeting definitely works, but then sink a card untargeted or unspecified gets a little bit more awkward, because again, I would assume a card from hand, right, would be the wording rather than just the symbol. So what does that leave us? It leaves us with, again, still being once per turn, right? So if it is just a synonymous for once per turn, you'd also kind of expect this to be double symbol, right? Again, symbol, comma, symbol, a cog, right? So that gets a little bit awkward. But for instance, on the heroes, it being once per turn again, I do think the abilities are kind of crazy, right? It definitely seems like gold is not going to be an issue. So yeah, it being once per turn, yeah, it's okay. It makes sense for the allies. But again, with Golden Cog, it does nothing to Golden Cog, because Golden Cog doesn't have a once per turn, right? Unless it denies you from triggering its upkeep effect, which I guess is good. The other option is flip. And the crazy idea for flip is that, for instance, Gravy Bones, Compass, even the ally, have something crazier on their backside, right? Because we do have a decent number of high rarity cards, right? So, for instance, imagine, what if Marlynn was flip, and her flip side was her standing on top of a cannon, all ready to shoot, right? So you use your ability, you get your cannon side, you get to shoot, and then the cannon just needs at the bottom, at the end of your turn, flip back, right? All of them just need on the reverse side. Now, in the case of Golden Cog, obviously that's a bit more difficult, but the fact that if you flip a cog, it wouldn't then upkeep is definitely a really nice mechanic. So yeah, I'm kind of in mind to say flip. Golden Compass could swap into something else. Chum could then swap into, I don't know, something just completely defensive, maybe penalty, maybe it's a little less life, right? So if you taunt, instead of a 6, it goes down to a 4. It's a theory, right? Again, because we just have so much variety in how this mysterious symbol is being used, as well as, again, that correlation of if it was destroy, if it was banish, if it was X, it should appear on some of these other cards as well, right? So yeah, I think that'll do it. That's my working theory so far, right? I'd be all for some craziness on their flip sides, right? And again, that would stop you using the ability, so it'd be sort of like once per turn. You flip it, you get one use of their ability, and then you get the backside, which, would be whatever craziness. So yeah, hope you enjoyed, right? Let me know. What do you think of the card so far? Definitely living up to the hype so far. So yeah.